Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Allan Misner, aka Coach Allan, is a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer, a Precision Nutrition Level 1 coach, and a Functional Aging Institute certified functional aging specialist. He went on to earn specialties in fitness nutrition, corrective exercise, behavior change, performance enhancement, and online personal training. Once an athlete, poor lifestyle choices had left him obese, out of shape, and miserable. And being 40 made weight loss much more difficult. When he did lose weight, he couldn't keep it off. This roller coaster ride, which was losing and regaining the same 20 and 30 pounds over and over, made him realize that a decision alone was not enough, and he was eventually able to recover his health. He launched his 40 Plus Fitness online personal training to help people over 40 lose weight and get healthy and fit. He is the host of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, for which he has interviewed hundreds of health and wellness experts with a wide range of specialties. He is also the author of the 2018 book, The Wellness Roadmap, a straightforward guide to health and fitness after 40. Allan Misner, Coach Allan, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you, Casey. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's such an honor to host you. I really enjoy your podcast. You do really great interviews. I love the content you put out there. But I have to admit, this episode is purely selfish. I don't know if the listener is going to get anything out of this. I just turned 40, and I want to learn what I need to do after 40 because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and you're the perfect person to come on here and tell me everything I need to be doing.
Well, what you just did is tell me you're a millennial because the millennials are just turning 40, which is kind of crazy to those of us in the X Gen and the boomers out there to realize that our kids are catching up to us. Back in the day, over 40 was a landmark in life. Some people called it midlife. It's been called a lot of different things. But there was just this general expectation that after the age of 40, well, that's when you slow down and stop playing. You're getting really big in your career. Things are going well in other aspects of your life. You had your children. They're now doing some adult-like things that are good and some that are not so good. But you've got college and you've got weddings and you've got those things that are coming up. So it's a phase of life where we expect change. Now, the bad thing is that sarcopenia and osteopenia are causing our muscles and our bones to degrade. In fact, we're getting older faster. We're feeling it more. You start these little funny statements of the aches and pains when you get up in the morning. How did I sleep wrong? And then if I get on the floor, I better have a plan to get back up. We start with that, and then we actually get into where it actually gets really sad, where it's true. We get on the floor and we can't get up. And so there's this aging curve that we're facing. And the whole phrase of use it or lose it is true to some extent, but it misses a key point. And the key point is you can regain it. It's not lost forever. So it's just a function of knowing what you want, setting your sights on it, committing to it, and then, doing the thing, doing the work. You can have the body that you want, and you can age the way you want.
Man, I love that. That is so well explained. Today, I'm going to head to the airport, and so I'm going to look around, and I'm going to see all these people around me not doing that great, right? Probably struggling quite a bit, but I'm going to get to this conference with some of the people that you and I know and work with, and we're going to be in a room with all these people who have this shared goal, who look like they're going backwards in time. Like you said, like it's never too late. You don't have to be average. You can be normal. Average is what you see around you when you go to the mall. Normal is to be like you, to age and thrive and be healthier and younger and have better skin and be able to do all the things that you enjoy. So I love the example that you set.
So here's a statistic I saw the other day. By 2030, half of the population of the United States will be obese. Okay, we're not talking half of the adults. We're talking half of the total population of the United States will be obese. Okay, so yes, when you're walking through, you're going to see a lot of people in wheelchairs. You're going to see a lot of people that need seat extenders. You're going to see a lot of that. And unfortunately, we're probably going to continue to see more and more because we're letting our lifestyle take us down.
Wow. Well, perfect timing because we've got great medications that are helping people with weight loss. So I'm sure that'll bail us out of
Yes,
the
they are.
situation. Yeah, GLP-1. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's too bad. The gym that I go to, I see a dude there. He's in his 50s or 60s. He looks amazing. He's in really great shape, and he wears this dad bod shirt, which I think is triggering to some people. But I love the example of people that are living very healthy into their later years, and they're functional. They're able to do all the things that make them tick and everything that they love. So, anyway,
You just gave me a great branding idea. I think I'm going to come out with Granddad Bod.
There you go. Perfect. Love it. I love it, man. Well, to get a little bit deeper into this context and give our listeners some hope and give them, some, I guess, some pointers and maybe some myths in the fitness industry that you and I are very much used to. Let's start by hearing your story. How did you get into all of this? And did you have a switch in your career that made you want to start training, or had you always been a trainer?
No, I was never always a trainer. In fact, I was completely out of shape, unfit, unhealthy. I had poured everything of me into a career. And so I accomplished what all of us set out to do when we're going to start this thing they call the rat race or climbing the ladder, the corporate ladder. I climbed it very quickly. And at the age of 39, I was already a vice president at a Fortune 500 company. I was on the board. Basically, I was listed as an officer of the company. That took a lot of work, but it also took a lot of sacrifice. And so I found myself in a very bad place, meaning I was successful there, plenty of money, but my health was bad. My fitness was bad. I was way overweight. I was in a toxic relationship. And quite frankly, I didn't even like myself. And so I kind of had a wake up call where I almost died on a volleyball court. I won't go too deep into that story, but just I tried to play volleyball and had no business even trying. And that was so discouraging. So I made a decision I'm going to change. And then I commenced to almost do nothing. Now I tried, but I would fail and I would do a little bit and then I would fall back. And then, so it was this back and forth, you talked about earlier in the introduction for 8 years. 8 years. And 8 years later, I find myself 8 years older, laying in a hotel bed, hungover, just as fat as I ever was, just as miserable as I ever was, and just so angry at myself. The day before, my daughter she'd gotten into CrossFit, and she was a level 1 CrossFit coach, and she was doing these obstacle course races and all this. And so we're on the phone. She calls. She said, "Hey, Daddy, I want you to come watch me do a CrossFit competition." And that was like a kick in the teeth, man. I was like, I don't want to be a spectator in my daughter's life. I want to be a participant. I should be doing that CrossFit competition with her. And so that was a part of it. And then I just got to thinking, why was this so hard? I mean, to be where I was in my career, the things I'd done in my life, I had done so many hard things. I ran a 50-mile ultra marathon. I passed the CPA exam on the first try. I was in the US military in a Ranger unit. I had done a lot of hard things in my life. And now, why was this different? And then it occurred to me, it wasn't different. I was different. I was different in the way that I addressed it. In every other case where I'd been successful, I had made a commitment, a full on, emotional, deep, I'm doing this, heck or high water commitment. And it was emotional and it was real and there was a vision and there was a thing I was going to have. And I made that commitment. So this was that moment where I said, okay, I have to make a commitment to this or this isn't going to happen. And so I did. I made a commitment. I did not want to be a spectator in my daughter's life. I wanted to be a part of her life. I wanted to be a participant. And that meant changing everything. And so I started the journey and I went through a few little ups and downs, but I seemed to be in a better place to figure those out. And then I got to a point where I realized I needed something big in front of me, something scary, something, something that I couldn't avoid. And so I was talking to my daughter. I said, "Hey, how about we do a Tough Mudder?" Now, for those that don't know, a Tough Mudder is about 12 to 13-mile run. It's not on the street. It's in fields and hills, and you're climbing, you're crawling, and it also comes along with 25 obstacles just to make it more fun. So it's a pretty grueling thing. I signed up for that with my daughter, bought the airline tickets, had the whole thing, and I had 8 months to prepare. And so I set my mind to it. I started doing the work, but the problem I had was I didn't know how to do the work. I didn't know what to do. This was back in 2014, and there were no podcasts for people over 40 trying to get healthy and fit. There were no books. Every book that was out there was like for people over 50, and it was about stretching. Nothing that said how to prepare your body for a tough mudder if you're over 40. Um, and so I had to try to figure this stuff out. I went ahead and got certified. All those certifications I started to train myself because I was traveling so much for work. I didn't have time to hire a trainer. I didn't have time or capacity to hire a nutritionist. So I learned it for myself. And over the course of 8 months, I managed to lose 66 pounds of fat, gain 11 pounds of muscle, and I was able to complete that tough mudder with my level one CrossFit coach daughter, who was 20 years old, and not slow her down. And so the commitment led to action, and the action led to reward. Mm. And so as I look at my life and I say, who do I want to be? At that point in time, I wanted to be able to participate in what my daughter was doing. And that's what drove everything I did. I trained for that. And so I think a lot of people look at all of this and one, they're not committed. They feel like, yeah, I should lose 20 pounds, or yeah, I could be healthier, or yeah, I know there's a grandkid coming along the way, but I'll deal with that then. And so they're not really committed to change. And so that's the first stage. You have to commit to this journey, or it's just not going to happen. If it's something that's nice to have or should do, you won't, not in the long run. It's too hard. And if you think about everything you've ever done hard in your life, everything great in your life, it took a commitment first. Yeah. So you've got to do that. And then the other side of it is the vision is, okay, what does my life look like? And what am I doing? I hear so many people tell me, I hate working out. I just hate getting sweaty. I hate going in the gym. I hate dealing with all this stuff. And they want the magic pill. And doctors are trying to find it. They're trying to find that magic pill. Um, they're going to find things that look really, really good, but the downsides are much worse. You'll find that out later. But we want the magic pill. And a lot of times we think we don't want to work out. So is there a better way? And the reality of it is, I don't want you to think of it as working out. So here's a story. The guy, Glenn, was my grandfather, and he loved golf, like loved it. He loved it more than his wife, which is why they got divorced. um, anyway, he also liked flirting with women, but that was a whole nother story. But he loved golf, just loved it. And he was 80 years old. I went to visit. I'd go visit every year. And I was riding with him in the golf cart, and all the guys were getting together to head out for golf. And he wasn't going with them. So I said, hey, what's going on? Aren't you going to go play? He says, no, I can't play anymore. My balance is out, and I really can't swing anymore. I'm like, well, let's go to the driving range and work on it. He's like, nope, can't do it. So here's a guy who lost the thing he loved the most in his life at the age of 80. And some folks will say, well, he's 80, okay. He lived till he was 95.
Long time.
Which means the last 15 years of his life, he was not doing the thing he loved the most. Okay. Now flash forward to 10 years to the age of 90. Now he's living in assisted care and he can't make it to the bathroom. If he's sitting in a chair watching a show, needs to go to the bathroom, he's not going to make it. There's going to be a mess that he can't even clean up. Someone has to come in and clean him up. And because this was the state of where he was, he didn't want visitors. So I wasn't able to see him the last 5 years of his life. So I only tell you this story, and yeah, it's kind of sad, but that's our future unless we make a different choice. Okay. So I joke with people and say, I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105. But what does that mean? Well, it means I need to train for that. I need to be ready for that. So the body I have needs to be ready for that, meaning dexterity, speed, and stamina, strength to do all the things that are necessary to make it from the chair to the bathroom and back. I want to be able to wipe my own butt. I want to be able to open my own pickle jars. I want to be able to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. So we didn't have Tough Mudders when I was a kid. They have them now. What are they going to have in 15 years when my grandkids are doing this stuff? I don't know, but I'm probably going to be the 70-year-old crazy dude out there doing it with them because I want to be a participant in their lives and not a spectator. So if you begin to look at fitness and the things that you want, like we look at retirement, say, oh, when I retire, I want to do all this traveling. There are people who get to that age and can't travel because they can't do it. Their body's not able. So think about the life you want, the different stages of aging, and how you can decide what that looks like and then train to make it your reality. Because we're all going to get older, but we get to decide how fast and what it looks like.
Man, I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. That is very powerful, and it's a sad story, but I'm very happy that you shared it just to illustrate the point. It's interesting that you decided to get those certifications. I have those same certifications by and large, the NASM and the precision nutrition one. I want to talk to you about those a little bit later on, but I want to know. I want to know for you, when you decided that you needed to do something different, you wanted to learn more about this stuff, what made you think you needed to go out and learn anything different? Because we already know what you need to do to lose weight and be really fit is eat less and move more, correct?
It is not incorrect.
Good answer.
Okay. The problem is this. Okay. Let's just say you decide, okay, I'm going to count calories. That's the easiest way. Calories are a measure of energy. So if this is thermodynamics and we're going to eat less and we're going to move more, well, then I need to have a way of measuring it. And that's what calories allow us to do. So I'm going to say I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start measuring what I eat, at least how many calories. And let's say I go into the restaurant and I order the 12-ounce steak. Now I can look that up online and it's going to tell me that it's got this much fat, this much protein, this many calories. Now, the question I would ask is, have you ever had a cut of steak that's a little fattier than the next cut of steak? So how do you know that your cut of steak is the same as the cut of steak that's in the reference in Google? You don't. So you're guessing. And fat has 9 calories per gram. So being off just a couple grams can put you off a good bit. That's 5 different. If you're considering that, I thought this was protein, but it's fat. Okay. So I could be off a good amount on that estimate. And that's assuming they brought me the 12-ounce steak I ordered instead of maybe one that was just a little bigger. Okay. So I've got an estimate of what I'm eating and I could be off. I could be off over the course of a day, hundreds of calories. Now, on the other side, I'm going to work these calories off. So that's okay. I'm just going to work harder. So I go in and there's this elliptical machine. And no lie, her name is Bertha. I named her because I use the same elliptical machine every single day.
Amazing.
I go in there and get on Bertha and just go. For 1 hour, I could burn 600 calories. Now, one day I walk in and someone's on Bertha. Oh, I'm mad. That's my elliptical. I named her and everything. Yes, I'm the 5 o'clocker that comes in and gets on Bertha every 5 o'clock every morning. This is my elliptical, but someone else is on it. So I'm like, crap. So I go over to a different elliptical. It's not like Bertha. It's a different type of elliptical. But I go and I do the same work. I work just as hard as I did the day before. And it shows me that I burned 700 calories. So I got to break up with Bertha. I got a new favorite elliptical. You know, I have to break up with my elliptical because this elliptical, it's better. I like that number a lot more.
Veronica's looking really nice.
You know, I like using old names, so I probably would have called it Ruth.
There we go. Gertrude.
That's good. That way, I got a date with Gertrude. Yeah, it's gonna get some people thinking, what the hell? He's dating grandma. Well, yeah, I am dating grandmas now because I'm in my 50s. But so the deal was this: it's an estimate. what I eat is an estimate, and what I burn is an estimate. And if I'm trying to play this funny math of comparing an estimate against another estimate, isn't that kind of silly to think that I'm going to come to some perfect thing? Now, I'm not saying it's not valuable to try to get some idea and to look for trends. So if I'm measuring a certain amount of food, and I don't have to measure with a cup and a scale and all that other stuff, but if I'm getting a general idea, I look at a plate of food and then I go ahead and get an estimate of about how many calories that is. And I do that for about 3 weeks. And I realize, okay, I am losing weight, but I could probably lose a little bit more. Then I can look at that plate and say, okay, what would be best for me to remove from this plate to cut out a few calories? So I say, okay, instead of my plate being having this much potato, could I do with half of the potato? So normally a serving of potatoes would be about the size of my fist. And I say, okay, I'm just going to do half a fist of potatoes. Didn't say I couldn't have potatoes, but I'm only going to have half a fist. And my estimate would be that's going to say be about 150 calories. Okay. And then I go with that. And now I'm losing weight. I can do it on the other side. Okay. I just spent an hour with Bertha, and that seems to be working for me. How about if I did an hour and 10 minutes? Again, I can't say that the 600 was right. I can't say the 700 was right. I know I'm burning calories because I'm moving. It's all an estimate. So it doesn't matter. But if I know if I do a little more, my body's probably burning a little more. Not an exact science because there's also hormones and other things going on in there that complicate the math because the calories in, calories out is the addition and subtraction. But we've got macros, which is the multiplication and division. And we've got hormones, which is a whole level of calculus on top of all of that. So you can't look at the bottom of this and say that's the math.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. So it's okay to look at it to get an idea. But the reality of it is paying attention to your body is probably a better way to come to the answer. And if the way you're eating now is not working, you've got to change. It doesn't have to be a huge, drastic change. In fact, it probably shouldn't be, but just paring it down a little bit, looking at a plate of food and saying, do I need this whole plate of food? Yeah, starving kids in India and all that kind of stuff aside, I don't have to eat that whole plate of food if I'm full when I eat 2/3 of it or 3/4 of it. And so I just sit there and say, I'm going to slow down and eat, and I'm going to listen to my body. And when it tells me I'm hungry, I'm going to stop. Okay. I'm going to move more because I want to move more because I'm training to do something with my life. Then I just do that. And if I can train more, then I'll train more. And so you start to get this idea where you're listening to your body and you're building balance from within instead of balance on a spreadsheet somewhere.
Yeah. I love that. That's very reasonable and very well explained. I mean, this is what I saw for over a decade working on a metabolic cart. You see the people come in and they are not only are getting on Bertha, but they're getting on Bertha at a very high level to maximize that calorie burn. And they don't realize that's well past a point of where your body is going to optimize its fat burning potential. You're just burning lots of calories,
Yeah.
but typically those calories are coming from carbohydrates. It's going to drive cravings. It's going to be harder to eat a certain amount. And the calories that you eat also have an after effect. And so you can do things that lower your metabolic rate. Like the time I tested a lady who just got kicked off of The Biggest Loser, and her metabolic rate was 1,000 calories less than what it should have been for somebody in her age, height, weight, and gender category, versus people finding alternates and maximizing protein and doing strength training, all those things. They make your metabolic rate go higher, and so you're naturally just burning more calories all the time. We just look at it so shorthandedly and say, yes, we can say it's calories in, calories out, but what you do today will then affect what happens tomorrow, and the equation changes on you. So let's find the things that drive that metabolic rate up so your body's working for you, not you working against it, you know?
Yeah. Well, one of the ways I like to look at it is I like to think of the human body and imagine that there's a kind of a really smart brain in there that's not your brain, it's another brain. Okay. But this brain can't really tell what's going on in the outside world. What it knows is it knows we're hunter gatherers. That's where we came from. That's how we were designed. So when it looks at movement, if you're sedentary, it has to wonder, why are we staying in the cave today? What's outside the cave that we're not out walking and lifting and doing the things that hunter gatherers do? So it begins to feel unsafe, spike up the cortisol, we're not safe. You're not going to lose weight if your body thinks it's unsafe. So we're trying to restrict calories. We're not eating enough food. We're not getting adequate nutrition because we're eating crap. Our body's going to see that as a risk. Oh, there must be a scarcity of food. I better save the body fat I have as a safety mechanism. I can burn some of this muscle if I have to do things that they do want to do. But because I know I'm not getting adequate nutrition, notice I didn't say adequate calories, adequate nutrition, my body wants to retain all of itself if it can. So it's not going to lose weight. If I'm overstressed at work and my job and my family and everything, and I'm not doing things to adequately manage that, cortisol's high, our body feels fight or flight, we're at risk. If I'm not sleeping well, my body's like, okay, what's going on? Why can't this person just get some sleep so we can heal, get our hormones working the way they are? We must be in danger. What's out there? Again, fear. And then the worst one is that voice in our head. I just saw a post on Twitter this week that I guess there's a percentage of people that don't have an internal monologue.
Really?
So, well, yeah, go
Jealous.
think. I mean, yeah, well, I don't think I have a monologue in that I don't sit there constantly in my head talking to myself, but there is a voice in there. And man, he is mean.
He's mean. No,
You
mine
know,
is.
he's mean. Like you sit there and do something. I was like, why did you eat those? You said you were going to try to lose weight. Why did you eat those 6 donuts? This guy is going to give me hell. I would never talk to my friends that way. Okay. But that voice in your head, it will talk to you that way. And that's another place where you got to say, I got to get better information. So food is information, movement is information, stress management is information, sleep is information. And the way you talk to yourself is information that tells your body whether it should heal and get rid of that body fat or whether it should hunker down and keep it all.
Yeah. Man, I love that. It just reminds me of a principle from my all-time favorite book, The Untethered Soul, which if you haven't read for the listener, it's wonderful. And from the very first sentence of the book, it's pretty much like you have a voice in your head and it's not you. And that was a 2x4 across my face, man. That was like, what? I do? I do. Wow, crazy. It's so important, that internal voice. So I love that you went there with that. I mentioned earlier some of these certifications that you have, which I'm curious about, because when I first decided to become a trainer in 2007, I went in to the manager, asked what I needed to do. He told me to be a trainer, I needed the industry standard, which he considered NASM, the one that you have for personal training. 10 years later, when I wanted to become a nutrition coach, they told me that the best thing you can get, the industry standard, is precision nutrition, the best one out there. For the people that are out there in the fitness industry, you probably have heard of these certifications and know what they teach. For the listener who doesn't know much about this, just know that these are like kind of 30,000 foot view. I mean, they go into depth in certain things, but also it's kind of high level. But it focuses on different aspects of coaching and how you structure training and all this stuff. Practically speaking, as you've been training and going on, what things do you really like about what those certifications taught us specifically? And are there other things that you maybe learned, but also practically weren't as helpful as you thought they might be?
Yeah. So, yeah, I looked at both. I looked at a lot of them. Of course, ACE and NASM were the two ones that were there. There was also a couple others. Some of them you had to actually have a degree in kinesiology to sit for. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to go back to college to to do this. So this is what I can do with what I have. NASM came out the favorite. They had a textbook. So it was effectively like, in my mind, taking a college course in fitness. They had a very solid model, which you probably know very well, and there's a structure to it. As you train, you're starting at one point and moving to another. So it didn't assume that every person walking through the door was at the same point, ready to do the same things. You have to build a foundation before you can build the next thing and then the next. So you would work with a professional athlete very differently than you would work with, in my case at that point, a 44-year-old man. And that's what I liked about it. I realized as I was going through that, okay, the corrective exercise specialty is probably important for me because I have a lot of movement problems. and I need to work through those. And so I did corrective exercise. Then, of course, trying to deal with my food, I did the fitness nutrition. And I would say that one was the one that I was most disappointed with of everything I've done, because it was just basically the food pyramid or my plate or whatever the heck it was at that point in time, which is what General Mills wants you eating, which is 11 servings of cereal every day. In fact, the head of Kellogg's basically said, if you want to save money eating, eat cereal for
Unbelievable.
all your meals.
Unreal.
That's what they want, and that's how they advertise. Literally, Pringles. Bet you can't eat one, and then they do a Super Bowl commercial where they're taking three of them at a time, saying pizza, barbecue pizza, chicken barbecue pizza. They're eating three Pringles at a time. That's their mindset, is how do I get you to eat more of this? And they've got control of the government food. And so that's what this was. And unfortunately, for a lot of the education out there, it has to follow that model. That's the practice, and that's what's required. I got into precision nutrition. I was happy that they 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 managed to put together a program that avoided the whole question. And so with precision nutrition, and then I went on to get my level two. With precision nutrition, it's really more about understanding how the food affects you and the volume of food physically. So we know we need protein, and we know that's valuable to our body. We know we need fat, certain fats. Cells of our body, our brain are made of fat. We need it. We can't make it. It's essential. By them saying essential amino acids or essential fatty acids, that's telling you your body cannot make it. You must eat it. So the low fat thing is a ruse, because we need fat in our diet, not seed oils, but actual fat in our diets. Um, and, so some of the things that are out there were just silly, but precision nutrition was able to take it and teach it to people in a way that's accessible and easy for other people to do. The level two of that course really got into the meat of why people struggle, and that's behavior modification. And so it's one thing for your nutritionist to say, I want you to eat better. And I think most of us can kind of get an idea of what that means. It's definitely not little Debbie's and ho-hos. It's real food. And then we can improve it, improve it, improve it. And that's always going to help us. But we've got to learn to manage ourselves in how we go about food, and not letting the emotions that we're feeling drive why we're doing things. It's really about getting the nutrition that food provides. So the signaling to your body is, I got plenty, I got good quality food. You can let go of the weight. You don't need to hold on to it. So precision nutrition was really good because it went that route. It wasn't the government, where's your 11th serving of grain? I don't see your 11th serving of grain. Wait, you're telling me you ate 3 servings of protein today? Wow, okay.
Poor
No,
kidneys.
that's not. It's like, yeah, I'm lifting weights. I as a 195-pound man lifting weights, I need more than 3 servings of protein a day. Sorry, but I do. What is a serving of protein? Well, a lot of people don't know that. So precision nutrition tries to make it easy. You just look at your hand. The palm of your hand is a serving of beef. Your whole hand is about a serving of chicken or fish. Pretty simple, right? So if I tell you you need 3 servings of protein and you're going to eat chicken, then that's 3 hands of chicken. And so they make it really easy for coaches to coach, which is really one of the struggles. Is if the coach doesn't know how to communicate to the client, then how is the client going to take that advice and move forward?
Yeah.
We don't have a lack of information, because anybody can Google anything. The information's there. We just have to learn how to apply it right.
Yeah. No, very well said. I like both of those aspects from NASM and also precision nutrition. I love that there was a framework with NASM that helps you kind of think about training and how I'm going to structure things out. If I had to answer the question, I would also say, like, when you learned that there was a certain rep range for hypertrophy and a different rep range for strength and a different rep range, I don't know how much I buy into that anymore. And with precision nutrition, to be fair, I always keep up on my certification. I'm still only level 1. I know the level 2 that you're talking about is very comprehensive. So you went through a year program. So I did not do that. I passed mine in a few months
Yeah.
and was only the level 1. I found for me personally, and this probably speaks to me not being the best coach, but with the behavior modification, I needed it and it was helpful. It was tough though, because I felt like I was getting into cycles with people where we were just like picking things that they were doing wrong every single time they would come and see me if they didn't get enough vegetables or if they didn't eat till they were 80% full. And certainly that emotional part helped. And again, your level of knowledge would be way more vast than mine since you did that level 2. I know people have done it, and it's a thing.
It really comes down to this is, what I do, one of the things I do with my clients is I want to make it as easy for them as possible. So one thing that typically works for most of my clients, I say, just take a picture of everything you eat. And I said, it's the picture. I don't care what you're eating, just take a picture of it. Okay. And they'll start to say, well, I feel bad because I ate this chocolate croissant and da-da. Don't feel bad. Did you enjoy it? Because that's part of this math, Did you enjoy it? Because that croissant's not going to kill you. Okay. Now the question is, if you went back and got a second and a third, you got to start asking questions. Did you really enjoy it? Okay. But having them take the picture, because they're sitting down there literally evaluating what they're about to do to themselves, good or bad. But that's an evaluation. And they know me as the coach on the other side. They have to share that information with me. Okay. I had one client I was talking to this week. He'd finished with my 12-week program and he had gone on. He had lost the weight. His at the time he was dealing with high blood pressure. His blood pressure came down. He was right where he wanted to be. So he said, okay, I got it from here. But what he realized was the value of taking pictures of what he ate and sending it to somebody was important. So he started sending those pictures to his brother. Whoever his brother is, I'm sorry you're getting all these food pictures, but that's how we used to use Facebook back in the day. But it's just that idea of paying attention, being aware before you do it, and making the grown-ass man or grown-ass woman decision. Am I really going to eat this? Am I going to eat all of this? And so when it really comes down to changing yourself, if you're not aware of what you're doing, you're not going to be able to change. But if you slow down and you ask yourself, why am I in the Krispy Kreme donut parking lot? Why am I here? I interviewed a guy, and that was his thing, was Krispy Kreme donuts. And he found himself in the Krispy Kreme donut parking lot, even though he had told himself he wasn't going to have any. But he caught himself right there. He's like, why are you here? Get out of here. Okay. Now he did have Krispy Kreme on the way back because he's driving somewhere and driving back that road. He did go back in afterwards, but it was the whole point of that awareness of what he was doing, and then making the grown man or grown woman decision: is this how I'm going to treat my body?
Yeah. Man, I love that. Very well explained. What a great practice that any of us could implement. I would argue that even if you're just taking pictures and saving them on your phone, you could even look at them and see. Now, I don't think that replaces a nutrition coach, a coach of any kind, or someone to be accountable to. But I think that's a great practice and really building awareness, which is a really good segue into another thing I really wanted to talk to you about, which is you're really great with helping people understand motivation in particular and things like willpower. And I mean, I'll just give you 2 examples from yesterday. One of my clients, he's to the point in his life where really for him, carbohydrates, he is intolerant of carbohydrates. We've seen blood work. If he has a little bit of things that I wouldn't expect his blood sugar to go really high on, his blood sugar goes really high. We've now validated that. Carbohydrates, I'm going to steal a line from both of our mutual guests, Gary Taubes. Like, carbohydrates are now a poison to you. This isn't the case for everybody. It is for you. You are better to abstain. Right. And he struggles. And it's like, he'll be on the diet, but then the donuts were on sale when he walked by them. And then he's bringing something home for his daughter, but then it's there and then he has it. And so it's just, we're getting good results and it's heading the right direction. It's just much, much, much slower than he or I would want at this point. And so when we meet up, we try to motivate him and it kind of waxes and wanes and it's tough. And then I've got another client and basically came to me and said, okay, I'm ready to change. I've been looking into some stuff. I really want to try a mostly carnivorous diet. Can you help me with a few things? We talked about it. We did a follow-up meeting. 10 days later, in 9 days, he had lost 7 pounds. He feels amazing. There was no adjustment. He's like, yeah, I just feel good. I just want to report to you. And like, I feel great. And I'm just going to keep doing this. It's like, I didn't do anything for coaching. He has the motivation. What is the difference? How are we as coaches inspiring people and trying to help motivate them, and the flip side of that, as the person who wants to be motivated, wants the willpower, they make the goals in January, but then it fades in February. Like, how do we
Right.
understand motivation and willpower in that context?
Right. So I do think we do willpower and motivation wrong. Okay. It's this force, right? It's this magical force that makes us do stuff. And we just wait for it. And yeah, I was there in January. That's totally cool. And then what happened? In February, it left. It's a fickle mistress. Um, where did it go? And that's the way we think it should be here. Like, I'm going to get started. Like, you and I could sit there and promise, okay, well, you're going to start running together, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do that on Monday. Well, we're recording this on a Thursday. It's like, dude, why wouldn't you just do it tomorrow? Yes, it's Friday, but just we'll start tomorrow. No, we're going to say, let's start on Monday. And then Monday, the alarm goes off. And then you're going to make that split second decision. Am I motivated or not? And then I'm out there at the track by myself. Um, okay. We're waiting for motivation to show up, but that's not how it works. To get motivated, you have to do something first. Okay. So there are two levels on two sides to this. Okay. So one side is accountability, and the other side is self efficacy. Now, accountability is actually the easier of the two, but it's not as powerful. So the two people you've talked about, they did the first step. They hired a coach, the leader accountability square. Okay. So you think about this top quadrant, leader accountability is a coach. It could be your boss, like it's your job. It's like your boss tells you to show up at 8 o'clock. You show up at 8 o'clock or you're fired. Okay. So accountability at a leader level, that's going to hold you in and doing some things right. Won't be perfect, but it's going to keep you doing it right. Okay. The next layer below that in accountability is this, what I call social. And this is where you have groups and peers. Now, people think of peer pressure is a bad thing, but peer pressure can be a very good thing. If you're surrounding yourself with other people who are taking care of themselves, you're more likely to take care of yourself. If you surround yourself with people that are doing the things you need to do, you're more likely to do the things. So, joining a spin class at the gym, getting you in a bunch of groups or your friends together on Sundays to do batch cooking, healthy food. And you all are there together, kind of like almost a little party thing, hanging out, and you're making your healthy meals for the week that you're going to take home and have. So you got it. Those types of things give you the social accountability to be engaged and stay engaged. So those are easier, but you see, you still have to do something. If you didn't hire the coach, you don't have the accountability. If you didn't ask your friends to be a part of your team, part of your peers, they wouldn't be. Okay. So that's the accountability. Now, where the real power comes in, and this is a coach, is I feel is my job, is to begin to move them over towards self efficacy. So there are also two layers in self efficacy. The first layer is also the leader layer. And this is where you say, I'm the CEO of myself. I am going to do these things. So, an example would be this. When I was first trying to get in shape, I would say, okay, I'm going to go to the gym at lunchtime. And I would get my gym bag, I'd get my truck, go to work, and I'd get to work. I was ready to go to the gym, and I'd open up my gym bag, and I'd be missing a shoe, not both shoes, or a shoe, or I wouldn't have socks or a t-shirt or short. I'd be missing something in that bag. Now, I don't know what the mental block was, but it happened more often than it should have. So I said, okay, how do I solve this? Okay, I said, I need a checklist. So I made myself a little checklist. I laminated it, put it in the bag. And then basically every evening when I came home, the gym bag went onto my bed. And so I would be brushing my teeth at night. I'd go through that list: shoes, shorts, shirt, socks, everything I needed off the list. Check, check, check in there. Took the bag and I set it by the door. So I would practically have to trip over it to go out to my truck to drive to work the next day. So that was the CEO. saying, this is the checklist, this is the thing, these are the procedures, this is the strategies and tactics you need to do to make sure you do what you're supposed to do. That's being a leader of yourself, self-management. That's the top level of self-efficacy. Now, this bottom level of self-efficacy, again, it's the hardest, but when you do this, you'll never ever want for motivation again. And this is when your values and your habits align with what you're doing. So remember, I talked about fitness for task, things like that. That's why those are so important, because that speaks specifically to this level. So if I asked you, okay, there's a friend of mine, he gets up every morning to train and he's a runner. What do you think he's doing every morning?
That's right. Running.
He's running. Okay. Runners run. CrossFitters CrossFit. Vegan eat vegan. Okay. So what they've done now is their values and their habits have aligned with the healthy lifestyle that they want, and they identify as that person. Okay. Now, for someone who really wants to put it all together, they can be in all four squares and probably should be most of the time. So, someone who is a runner also needs to be self managed. They can be a part of a running group, and they can have a running coach or another coach that helps them be better at what they want to do. So, maybe they know they're doing all this running, but they also want to build strength. So, they hire a strength coach. Or they know they need to improve their nutrition so they can run better, maybe lose a little bit of weight. They've got a nutrition coach. And so you see how you can put yourself in all four of these quadrants based on what your needs are. And motivation is now automatic because you're doing the things that are necessary to be motivated.
Wow.
You're not sitting around waiting for it.
That was very well explained. I really appreciate that. And I think anybody could use that to help guide them on the steps of what they need to do to have that self-motivation and never lack it again. I'll give you a good example of this. Like, I'm here in Salt Lake, it's 35 degrees outside. So I'm not cycling, I'm not on my bike. And I spend all winter with long leg hair. And this time of year, it's going to start to get, warmer outside. I'll be out on my bike. I shave my legs. And somebody asked me recently, hey, you just shaved your legs. Why do you shave your legs? And I'm like, do you want the cyclist bullshit answer? Because I'll tell you that. It's because
wind resistance,
aerodynamically, it's better for you. If I crash, it's easier to scrub out the wounds. It's better for massage. Here's the real answer. When I shave my legs, I'm a cyclist. That's what cyclists do. That identifies me as a cyclist. Yeah. And now I think, okay, well, I did that. So I better damn well be out on the bike getting fast. That's what I identify as and makes me. So I think that's an interesting example. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. It is. So once you identify as something, it becomes your normal. Like I said, I identify as the parent or grandparent that participates in their lives. So my son, I had just gotten and started dating Tammy, so we were kind of new in our relationship, and he was with this girl who had a child, and Addie was the girl's name, and Addie was afraid of me. She was terrified, and it was kind of bothered me that she was so afraid. She wouldn't talk to me. She wouldn't look at me. It was like she was terrified. And I'm like, I've got to solve this problem. And in my mind, the only way I could solve the problem was to get to her level. So what I did was one weekend I'm sitting there and I grab my laptop and I walk over and I sit down on the tile floor. And I notice you're sitting on the floor. A lot of people over the age of 40 don't want to sit on the floor because it hurts. It's uncomfortable. You have to move around a bit and getting up. They've got all the reasons in the world not to sit on the floor. So I took this over. It was a tile floor, sat down on the floor, opened it up, and went to YouTube and found SpongeBob, which was her favorite. And I started playing SpongeBob. So she walks over and she sits down right next to me. We're watching SpongeBob. SpongeBob finishes the show finished. I said, would you like to watch another? She said, yes, please. So I started another one. So I sat on the floor with her for about an hour watching SpongeBob. Okay. I could do that because I was physically trained to be mobile enough, strong enough, capable enough, and could sit on the floor for over an hour without too much discomfort. You still move around a bit. That's fine. But I was able to sit there and watch that show with her. And you know what it did? It changed everything. Our relationship from that moment on, she was never afraid of me again. We had all kinds of fun. We'd play, we'd crawl around, we'd be on the floor, we'd sit and watch SpongeBob. It just completely changed everything. So I identify as that guy. Okay. And I do the things I need to do to be that guy.
Mm.
I practice with my dogs now. Like my dogs, I'll go in there, I'll sit down on the floor and start petting them. Lev gets a little too excited and he wants to go for my face. And I'm like, okay, game's over. And I get up, but I'll get on the floor, I'll get up, I do the things because that's who I identify as. I don't identify as a 58-year-old man that's going to sit in a rocking chair looking down at children.
Mm. Great example. I love that, man. I'm following a few people online who are in the middle of their weight loss fitness journeys, starting out not in great places, let themselves go a little bit too far, but they started and they're now to the point that as they're doing like weekly posts, they're sharing their weight and it's just kind of ticking off. And they've got a long way to go, but it's ticking off and you can see that they don't hate it anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're building those
Yeah.
habits. Going to the gym sucked the first time, maybe for the first week or the first month or whatever, but now it's kind of fun and enjoyable and they like it and they like the process and seeing the results. And so for somebody who thinks that they're too old, they've aged out, it's too far gone, they're too big, what advice would you have for that person who might be listening thinking like this all sounds well and good, but there's really not much hope for me. I've already made it to that stage.
Okay. Well, if you really, really think that, then you're right. I mean, I'm sorry, but yes, if you don't believe that you can change, then I can't change your mind.
Love that.
If you really believe that, but you're actually listening to this podcast and still listening because we've been talking for a little while. But if you truly believe that, then you're right. But I don't believe that you believe that. The reality is that the human body is the most amazing thing ever. The more I learn about it, the more amazing it is. Imagine a machine that can not only heal itself, but make itself better. If you give it the effort and the time and the nutrition it needs, it will get better every time. It can heal itself, it can get stronger. You can get more mobile, you can build stamina. You literally can continue to improve yourself every waking day of your life. You just have to do the right things, and not all of them, just a couple of them. Eat a little better, move a little bit better, sleep well, manage your stress, and be nicer to yourself.
Mm. Man, that's a great answer. On that note, you probably just answered the question, but I wanted to ask you a question you often ask your guests. If you had three things, if you had three simple things that you would want somebody to do, somebody who's in their 40s or beyond that want to start this journey, that dream, have that vision that you were talking about of playing with their kids on the ground, getting up, not getting into the same situation that your grandfather got into. What are three of the most simple things you think people should focus on?
Okay. I think the first one is to get to your why. Really sit down and think through why do I want to be better? Now, it's almost always going to be your significant other, your kids, maybe grandkids. It's going to be somebody in your life that you love, somebody that you want to be around for, somebody you want to help, someone that you don't want to have to be taking care of you. So get deep and personal on your why. That's the first one because this will be a bedrock foundation for you to be successful long term. If you just do it and saying, well, the doctor said I need to lose a little bit of weight, so I need to lose 20 pounds. So what? So what? You know, if it's, oh, my blood pressure's a little high and he's going to start putting me on medications. And that's exactly the path that my uncle took. And then he lost his foot at 65 because of diabetes. I don't want to be like him. Then that's a little bit more compelling and deep. So it doesn't have to be a person, but it needs to be a big why. Why is this important? Really important. 20 pounds is not important. But there are other things that 20 pounds represents that could be. So find your deep why. Okay. The second one is eat real food. Okay. If it comes in a bag, box, jar, or can, be suspect. Okay. Because most things that come in that form are not food. They're food like stuff. There's calories There might even be a few vitamins and minerals, but mostly the chemical versions of them. So if it walked this earth, swam in the water, or lived, and it's as close to being that thing as it could be. So a piece of meat, a piece of fish, vegetable, then that's something you should be eating more of. It's really hard to overeat that. But if it comes in a wrapper, a box, a can, a jar, it's probably got other stuff in it you don't need to be eating. So the less of that you eat, the better. So just eat more real food. And then the final bit of this is really about thinking about movement again from a fitness for task type of thing. When we get older, the likelihood of falling is higher. So you can say, I don't want to get on the floor, but sometimes that might not be within your choice. You might end up on the floor whether you want it to be or not. So be thinking about bone density and muscle dense strength and how that's going to be protective, about mobility and balance and how getting back up and not falling in the first place could be more valuable. Think about who you want to be. Again, we're looking at our who. Well, what does that look like physically? What am I able to do? So my wife and I run a bed and breakfast down here in Panama, and they deliver water in these 5-gallon bottles, like the water cooler bottles that you have at work. Well, those weigh 44 pounds. And so they'll bring them to the door. Sometimes we have as many as 10 of them. And they got to go to the back of the house, which is 40 feet, and then some of them upstairs. So I'm just grabbing these bottles and carrying. If they have handles, I'm doing them 2 at a time, farmers carry. Not many other 58-year-olds are thinking about walking around how they're going to be able to do farmer carries for, that far with 44 pound, 45 pound, dumbbells. I do because I do it all the time. So fit for task, just do the movement that's going to help you be fit for what you need to do when you need to do it. And so don't think of it as working out, just think of it as training. So the 3 is 1, get to your why. 2 is eat real food. And 3 is train to be the human being you're supposed to be.
Thank you so very much for taking the time to come on the show today and explain these things. I have really very much enjoyed going in depth with some of these things with you and having this really great candid conversation. I think the listener's going to walk away with tons and tons of different information, which is going to be awesome. And I appreciate your time and your perspective of looking at some of these things. So thank you, Coach Allan. I know you've got a lot going on and a lot of different programs, but where are some of the best places that people can find you and connect with you in your work?
Okay. I'm going to make it really, really easy for you. There's one page I set up just for this podcast. So you can go to 40plusfitness.com/boundless. So 40plusfitness.com/boundless. That'll take you to a page that basically is going to be a summary of some of the things we talked about here and links to anything and everything about me that you would want.
Awesome. Wow. Thanks for doing that. That's so cool of you. Get our own little website. Can you make my website be a lot better?
Well, no, but this page will point to yours if you want it to. You got that Google juice.
Man. Oh, that's awesome. No, I really appreciate that. We will definitely tag that in the notes. And like I said, Allan, this has been an awesome chat. I've really appreciated your perspective on fitness and life. And I think anybody can walk away with this with some great tips and tricks, not only about fitness and nutrition, but also things they can prioritize and focus on in their life. So thank you so very much for what you do. I love your podcast. Keep up the great work there. I love the conversations you have there. And yeah, thank you so very much for coming on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. You too. And do please keep this podcast going because this is a good thing. People deserve to be boundless.
Well, thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. It's a lot of fun doing podcasting, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I love it. No plans of stopping soon. Well, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate you.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Talk soon. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio. As always, thank you so very much for listening to Boundless Body Radio. Hosting this podcast is seriously one of the most meaningful and joyous parts of my life. Even after 600 episodes of our show, I still get nervous before every interview that I do. But it does just bring me such joy to share some of my favorite people, the people that have taught me so much over the years, and to invite them on and ask them questions, and then to share that with you, the listener, is a super cool experience. I hope you've enjoyed the content of the show so far this year. I tried to start the year off with a mix of new guests and returning guests, some that are practically household names in the health and wellness space, and some inspiring people that may not be very well known now, but are certainly doing amazing work wherever they are. I'm just so grateful for all of our incredible guests. Remember that you can always go to our website to book a complimentary 30-minute session with us at myboundlessbody.com. On our homepage, one of the first things you'll see is a Book Now button where you can select a time to speak with us about your personal health and fitness plan. We don't have any set packages, products, supplements, or anything like that to sell you. People that do want to work with us simply pay for the time that they want, and that's about it. We've loved chatting with so many of you out there to bounce ideas off each other and try to offer any advice that we can. And seriously, as always, even if you book a spot just to say hello and introduce yourself, we absolutely love connecting with you, the listener, in our community. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel, which is also growing quite a bit, if you want to watch these full interviews and also shorter videos on more specific topics taken from these interviews as well. It's a fun way to interact with people who comment. We read and reply to every single YouTube comment we get, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave as many comments as you like. And of course, if you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple. It is still the best way to make sure that the podcast gets out to more listeners. It only takes a moment to leave a review, and it's extremely meaningful to us. Cheers, and thank you again for listening to Boundless Body Radio.